Hi everyone, welcome to day 2 of the Yoga and Tarot Spring Equinox Retreat. Today I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking through the minor arcana. So as I mentioned in the first video, tarot deck is made up of 78 cards and 56 of them are the minor arcana, the other 22 are the major arcana. Now when we talk about the minor arcana, these are referring to 4 suits and cards from ace up through king. So each of the 4 suits are represented by a different element. When we think about the elements of astrology, there are 5 of them. It is air, water, fire, earth, and spirit. So if you think about spirit being the major arcana, those other 4 elements are going to be what make up the minor arcana. And each of those elements are related to a different suit. So the first one would be wands, and that is related to the fire element. So if you look at the Ace of Wands here, you'll see a lot of elements of fire on the actual wand, right? You'll see this dark cloud, you'll see sort of these yellowish orangey colors, and wands represent a yang element. It's all very action oriented. It also deals a lot with creativity, imagination. So any sort of artistic pursuits, any sort of creative endeavors that you may be on, whether they're personal or professional, just anything creative in your life and anything about moving forward. That's really what the wands represent. If you think about seasons and astrological signs, it's actually related to the spring season. And astrologically, the fire signs, which are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So really when you think about wands, think about moving quickly, about looking forward, moving ahead. And that's really where the wands play. Next, we have the element of water and the suit of cups. So if you look at cups, you'll see it's very peaceful, very healing energy. There's water. This is the Ace of Cups. And really in any of the cups cards, you're likely gonna see an element of water, whether it's water flowing, whether it's a lake or a river. It could be in the foreground, it could be in the background, but typically most decks will show some element of water, or at least they will have this cup or chalice. Now, the theme of cups is really about your feelings. It's about your emotional world. It's also about relationships. So relationships with yourself, also relationships with others. Cups are very yin energy. They signify the season of summer, which includes the astrological signs of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces in terms of water. So we think about these cups as very yin, very passive, yet not necessarily stationary, right? Just think of it as a healing card and really anything to do with your emotional world or maybe how you relate to yourself or how you relate to others. The next suit and element is swords. And swords is all about air. In the air element, the astrological signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. The season associated with air is fall. And a lot of this is dealing with change, dealing with potential conflicts. That doesn't mean the swords are negative in being that they're conflicts. It's just coming more from maybe a challenge of the mind, right? Something more intellectual, maybe problem solving, things of that nature, or just anything going on from an intellectual, logical, and communication standpoint. And then finally, our 4th suit is Pentacles, and this relates to the element of earth. When you see pentacles, you also see these coins, and in the pentacle suit, it is about material, but it's also about stability and home life. Has a lot to do with nature. You'll see a lot of elements of nature and of animals in these cards for pentacles. It's really about grounding. And then this season is related to fall for pentacles. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, and it's very yin energy, very grounding. And so those are the 4 suits, and those kind of give you an idea of what you're going to see among each of the suits and sort of the elements there. So you can start to look as you draw these different cards that have these suits. You can think before you look up any meaning in your book, if you draw a card that has pentacles, you might start to think, okay, this might have to do with my material world, it might have to do with work, it might have to do with career, it might have to do with money matters, my home life, right? Or maybe if you pull a cups, you start to think about relationships, again, with yourself, with others, with your emotions. If you pull anything with wands, it might be telling you to take action. It might have to do with some kind of creative endeavor that you're working with or working through. And then if you pull swords, it might have to do with some kind of intellectual challenge or conflict that you're faced up with. Okay, so just keep those themes in mind. And it's just another point of reflection for you when you pull those cards, kind of what they might mean. And then next I want to talk a little bit about numerology. So all of the cards that make up those suits, we have them from ace to king. Now, when we look at just the ace to 10 cards, we call those the pip cards, P-I-P. And then the page, knight, queen, and king are the court cards of the minor arcana. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the pip cards and the numerology associated with those cards. So I showed you examples of the ace, right? And so now, instead of thinking about the actual elements, which you already know a little bit about, take a look here at what all of the aces have in common, right? So they all have a single hand, and again, each deck might be a little bit different, but these aces symbolize creation, they symbolize opportunity, they symbolize new beginnings and potential. So aces, signifying the one in numerology, really have to do with starting something new. And then moving on to the twos. So two, I'll show you across all four suits. Twos deal a lot with duality. It can deal with partnership, with doing something with a companion, also deals with balance. And then think about two, the two is sort of building off the ace. So the ace is a new beginning. It's a creation of something. The two is sort of that two parts coming together or moving forward beyond that. So you might just think about what that might mean when you have two of something together, companionship, things of that nature. And then you have the three. So three represents the initial achievement of a goal. You can kind of see the various elements here, but it does a lot with movement, with growth, with abundance. It has an element of a group dynamic, so moving from the two into the three. It deals with friendships. You can see in the Three of Cups, there's three figures surrounded sort of in celebration, right? And you can think about three as being really symbolic of a lot of things: past, present, future, beginning, middle, end, mind, body, soul, right? So three being really important in numerology, and a really nice piece here to the tarot element in terms of numerology with the three. And then you move on to four. So four represents stability. It represents the four seasons, right? We've got the four suits, the four elements. If you think about like a foundation of a building, it's structure, it's secure. It also deals with manifestation. But at the same time, the four can represent being a little bit stifling, right? While it's secure and stable, it can also be rigid. But at the same time, it's dependable, it's logical. So you can think about those elements of numerology as you look at the four. And then moving on to five. So five is where we get to the midpoint, right? The midpoint between the ace and the 10. And if you think about all of these cards, right, as moving up in sort of a storyline, ace up through 10, they're sort of telling a story, even though we don't draw them that way, but we think about that in the terms of the tarot. And so if you think about that as being a story along all the numbers, you can consider that five is kind of where the plot thickens, right? It's where things get a little bit more intense. There's change, there's development, there's growth. There might be instability or challenge, there's transition, there's adventure, right? So you can kind of think of those elements of numerology when you think about the five. And then next we have 6. 6 is about problem solving. It's about kind of getting past those conflicts that we potentially saw in the 5, and it's about moving forward, right? It's about adjustment, balance, harmony. You can think about 2 triangles coming together to form 6, and it's really transcending difficulties. We move on to 7. 7 is symbolic in terms of the 7 chakras, the 7 visible planets that we have, 7 days in a week, right? A lot of meaning with 7. And 7s really represent spirituality, about wisdom, about making sense of something, assessing, reflecting, introspection, search for truth, right? And finding the reality maybe hidden behind an illusion. So as an example, the 7 of Cups, right? You have all these options up here in your purview, and it's maybe making sense of which option, which thing you want to deal with, right? Having all of these different options in the 7. And then moving on to 8. 8 symbolizes strength. So we talked about the stability of the 4. Now think of that doubled, right? You've got this karmic balance. 8 symbolizes the infinity symbol. It's moving toward more stability, finding more balance, having confidence, really recognizing actions and progress. And then 9, we have the magic of 3 reappears in the 9, right? So being that it's a multiple of 3, we have the 9 here. This is getting close to completion, right? So if you think about 10 being the point of completion in terms of numerology, you're almost there. You're finding a sense of attainment, a sense of fortitude, fulfillment. You're nearing the end, but you still have just a little bit ways to go. And then finally, for our numerology, our final one is the 10. So in the 10, again, it's the completion point. It sort of symbolizes the end of a cycle. It also symbolizes that endings are also new beginnings, right? So it's returning to this unity, it's completion, but it's also continuation, because at the end of one thing is just the beginning of the next. It's the beginning of a new cycle. So you can think about that 10 as that completion. When you look at all the minor pip cards, so the ace through 10, you think about them more as relating to our day-to-day life, right? So there's this sort of journey aspect of the ace through the 10 through each suit and kind of what that means. So I know that was a lot of information, but I just invite you to kind of take some of that in. If any of that numerology or the suits information is really interesting to you, I can share some more resources throughout the week about where to find more information on that, and you're welcome to do your own research on that as well. I just find that having a little sense of the meaning of some of the numerology and some of the suits really helps, and again, developing my intuition around the cards. So feel free to use that information. And then one other way to learn a little bit more about the suits, a little bit more about the cards, is to do a spread or do a pull of your deck with just those cards in your deck. So you can literally pull out just the number cards, just the suits, just the minor arcana, shuffle those cards and see what comes up. Another fun example that you can play that I'll put into the email as well is that you could play with numerology in terms of finding your life path number. So if you delve into numerology at all, your life path number is your date of birth using your month, day, and year, adding it all up until it gets to one single digit, finding your life path number. So it requires a little bit of math, but for example, my birthday is December 13th, 1989. So it's 12/13/1989. So I add up all single of those digits, 1 + 2 + 1 + 3 + 1 + 9 + 8 + 9, and then even compound that down further until I get my life path number, which is 7. So what I do then is I will look at all of the 7 cards, right? So all the cards in the suits that represent 7, and see what they reflect to me. Taking a look at those 4 cards, you can simply reflect on them, you can journal on them, you can read the meaning about them, and see if anything from that relates to you, right? And again, this is just to play, this is just to explore, but it's an invitation again to dive a little bit deeper into numerology and maybe how your life path number maybe is reflected in the tarot. So enjoy all of that information. Hope that you have a good time playing with the pip cards, playing with the suits and the numerology, and I'll be back to see you again soon.